What's going on, everybody? I am here to do a review for one of my most anticipated films of 2025, Sinners. And let me just tell you right now, this movie more than deserved that 100 rating that it got on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I don't always use Rotten Tomatoes as a metric, but for the critics to give it a perfect 100, that is saying something. I've heard nothing but awesome things about this movie. And let me just tell you right now, you are going to hear nothing but awesome things about the movie from me. So basically, to give a little overview of what the movie pretty much is about, it's starring Michael B. Jordan, in which he's playing dual roles. He's playing a twin. And let me just say you something right now. If I didn't know Michael B. Jordan from A Can of Paint, I would swear up and down he actually was a twin, and his twin also acted in movies as well as him, because the way that they pulled that off for him to be a twin in this movie was superb. Like, the technology they did, you would think that there was actually another person on that set that looked just exactly like him. But to give a little bit of a summary of the plot, is basically set in 1932 down in Mississippi. It's after, a lot of wars and everything have gone on, and then you have World War I veterans who are Smoke and Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan, and they come back to Mississippi, and what they're basically aiming to establish is a legitimate juke joint of sorts. Then they introduce their cousin Sammy, who also goes by the name of Preacher Boy, who has aspirations of being a blues player. He loves the guitar, he loves to perform, he likes to sing, but he also has a conflict because his dad is a preacher, and when it comes to preaching and being in a church, they don't want you to mix in what you call the saved and sanctified with the secular music. But that's not going to stop him, and it's just, he finds a way, and he links up with Smoke and Stack, who happen to be his cousins. But however, their plans end up getting disrupted when they encounter this individual by the name of Remick, who is a musician himself, but he also carries a dark secret. And of course, that dark secret is he is a vampire. And what he's aiming to do is exploit Black creativity. And I love that plot point where they can mix in historical points of Black history, but throw a horror element in there as well. And the way that Ryan Coogler pulled it off was simply amazing. And basically, as Remick's influence starts to grow, the brothers and as well as their community have to confront not only supernatural threats, but they also have to also the pervasive forces of cultural exploitation and historical trauma. That's just simply amazing right there. This is why this movie got so much praise, the way that they pulled that off. And one thing I also like is that the film naturally blended elements of period drama with horror, and creating a narrative with allegory and emotional depth. That's another major point that this movie was able to tackle. But now let me break down the characters. So you had Michael B. Jordan, like I said, playing dual roles as Smoke and Stack. And Smoke, he's more of the mission oriented. He's staying on his goals. Like he has a target that he has to reach, and he definitely has to meet. And he's really by the book. Whereas Stack is the more laid back, cool, chill type of person, but he can have a hot head immediately and go off like it's nobody's business. And one thing I will say is Michael B. Jordan delivered a great standout performance of playing two people so effortlessly, like I said at the beginning, and able to play or portray twin brothers with very distinct personalities, yet they had a very undeniable bond. So I would say, to authentically capture the twin dynamic, Ryan Coogler made sure to, I read somewhere where they actually he enlisted real life twins as consultants to ensure that Michael B. Jordan played nuanced portrayal. So I thought that was very smart. So that basically gives Michael B. Jordan something to play off of in order to have it correct, because even though you have people out there that are identical twins, they're never always going to be the same. You're gonna have one that's going to be one way and one that's going to be another way, even though they look exactly alike. The next person I wanted to talk about is this actor named Miles Canton, or Caton, who I believe this is his first role. I believe this might be his very first role, and he plays Sammy, or the preacher boy, like I mentioned in the beginning. And Sammy, basically, he wants to be a musician. And really, if you think about it, Sammy is one of the most intricate parts of the story outside of Smoke and Stack. Now, looking at the trailers, you would think that the story is centered solely around Smoke and Stack, but really, in all honesty, it's really surrounded around Sammy. Like, really, the main focal point is around his particular character. And like I said, he wants to be this artist. He wants to be this musician so badly. He's conflicted because of his dad being a preacher, and he kind of rebels a little bit, and he goes off with his cousins to go and pretty much do his thing. And really, honestly, he ends up, in my opinion, becoming more of the character that you start to care the most about in this movie, sometimes even slightly more than Smoke and Stack. I know it's kind of shocking, but if you watch the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The next person I wanted to talk about is the character named Mary, played by Haley Steinfeld. And Annie is basically, she's a character that had a relationship with Stack at one particular time. They also have a history. They pretty much grew up together, and she wants to be involved somehow. You can tell she has some conflicts there as far as a past thing going on with Stack, and she's feeling some type of way about it, but she's trying to move her way back in. But Stack doesn't want to let her completely back in, and Smoke doesn't either, but she finds a way to get herself back in. And honestly, she's also the foundation, because through her character, a lot of the chaos ensues because of something that ends up happening to her. As a matter of fact, if you watch the trailer, it kind of spoiled what happens to her character, but she kind of lays way into the chaos that starts to unfold. And the last two people I wanted to talk about was Delroy Lindo and Wumi Musako. And let me just tell you right now, I did not know Delroy Lindo could have that much comedic timing. He definitely was the comedic relief in the movie, especially as the movie went on. Like, the audience that I saw this with, every time he said something, he always had something funny to say, and it always made people laugh. He was a character. He was a musician as well. But as long as you paid him in some type of liquor or beer or whatever that can get him lit, he was there. He was the life of the party. He liked to have fun. But when it came down to handling business and taking care of the people that he loved, he definitely did that. And Wumi Musako, she was basically, I guess you could say, the woman who, I don't want to say she was a voodoo person, but she was like the all-knowing type of person. Like, she knew what these creatures were. They thought they were one thing, but then she was able to figure out what they were afterward. And then she was also able to find out how to combat them, to order to ward them off, or at least fight them off, or at least get them through the night till the sun came up so they can maneuver, because vampires are susceptible to sunlight. Now that I've gotten through, I guess you could say, the main, like the solid main cast, and there are some other supporting characters in there as well that did a phenomenal job too, I want to get into the writing and the directing. The writing and directing in this movie, Ryan Coogler, I tip my hat off to you, sir. This was one of the best projects that you have ever done. There was this one, I'll say that to when I get to the production side of it, but Ryan Coogler's screenplay is like in a masterclass of its own, especially with this movie right here, especially when you blend the genres of drama. You got some comedy in there. You definitely have the horror aspect in there, and the way that he was able to blend all of those elements, and then some that I can't even think of at the moment, it was so masterfully done. By introducing vampires as metaphors for predatory cultural forces, he was able to critique the exploitation of Black creativity by white figures such as the Remick character. And then the narrative also evolved so seamlessly from a period drama to a visceral horror thriller type of film, while also maintaining the suspense and emotional engagement throughout Coogler's direction, which made sure to ensure that each scene serves both the story and its thematics, undoings. Amazing. Now, again, I'm giving you all the reason as to why this movie got 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, let me get into the production side of it. Before I go any further, if I could make one recommendation to the people who plan on seeing this movie, go see it in IMAX. I was going to see it in Dolby, but I said, you know what? They said, when I see a film that says filmed for IMAX, that means they use IMAX cameras. As a matter of fact, it was something interesting that happened when I was watching the movie, because when I was watching it on that IMAX screen, I didn't notice it until it was a part in the film. It was a big action scene that happened, like maybe in the third act of the film. And the risers, or that was at the top and the bottom of the screen, rose up And I was like, oh, that's the IMAX part. They expanded the screen because they really want you to see everything. I thought that was dope because I never paid attention to it before. And it was a scene in there. It was a scene without spoiling anything. It was a juke joint scene where they were talking about the music and what they did with that scene. Oh my God. I don't know if the Wambi is looking at my review for this right now, but him being the music historian that he is, he would love that scene so much. And I hope, Dewan, if you're listening to this or not, I hope you are. As a matter of fact, I might have to send you this review just based on what I said right there. It's a huge music scene that happens in the movie that, as a person who loves music so much, you're going to really, really love what they did, what Ryan Coogler and his team did with that scene. And speaking of music, the music and the sound design in this was great. I mean, the music that they played in there, they made you feel like you were back in that time period, even with the filter that they had on with the production. As far as how the movie is looking, was very good. Like, they made it seem like you were back in that time period. It didn't look like we was in 2025. They made it really look and feel like you was in Mississippi in 1932. You know, the sound effects that they use for the blood, the parts where the vampires are biting or eating, the sound, everything on that was good. Just make sure y'all go see this movie on IMAX. And one thing that I have to also say is, the second to last scene of this movie, if you are a black person, I'm telling you right now, that second to last scene that involves Michael B. Jordan is going to satisfy you. I know it did me. When I saw that last scene popped up the way that it did, it made me want to go do a victory lap around the church. I'm talking about close all of my rings, because that was simply phenomenal. The scene is playing out in my head right now, but I don't want to say anything too much about it because that means I will end up spoiling it. But in conclusion, Sinners is definitely like a great blend of historical drama and supernatural horror. The performances were outstanding. The directing was great. The cinematography was top notch. This movie for me is a 10. I gotta say it. Sinners is a 10 for me. This is a 10 movie and definitely going to be in my contenders for top movie of the year for sure. It has entered in the category with Jonathan Majors Magazine Dreams. But that is going to conclude my review for the movie Sinners. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Are you planning to check out Sinners? I feel like I shouldn't even have to ask you because I feel like many of you are going to watch it. And I feel that you definitely should. And with that being said, I will talk to you in the next one.